I never thought I'd find myself in the middle of a horror story. It's a statement that still sends chills down my spine, even as I share this with you. You see, I'm just your average guy, no particular interest in the spooky or the supernatural. I'm the kind of guy who enjoys his quiet, loves his solitude. So it seemed like a good idea when I moved into this old house in the countryside. You know the type, ancient, creaky, with a charm that only age can bestow. From the moment I set foot in that house, there was something off. Like a strange feeling that prickled at the back of my neck, a sense of unease that crept up my spine. But I chalked it up to the unfamiliarity of the place, the eerie silence that pervades the countryside, the solitude I thought I craved. The first few days were uneventful. I spent them unpacking, getting the lay of the land, familiarizing myself with the quirks of the old house. The floorboards that creaked, the doors that groaned, the windows that rattled in the wind. I wrote them off as the antics of an old house, the kind of things you get used to when you live in a place that has seen more years than you can count. But as the days passed, that strange feeling grew. It wasn't just the unfamiliar surroundings anymore, or the silence of the countryside. It was something more, something deeper. It was like the house was alive, watching me, studying me. I could feel it in the shadows that seemed to move, in the corners that seemed to whisper, in the air that seemed to thicken with every passing day. I tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself that it was all in my head. But the more I ignored it, the more it gnawed at me, the more it unsettled me. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was not right, that something was amiss. And then, one day, it all came to a head. But that's a story for another time. For now, let me leave you with this. I was about to find out the house had a dark secret. I felt like someone or something was watching me. You know those moments when the hair on your neck stands up and you get that prickling sensation, like 1,000 tiny needles jabbing at your skin? I was having one of those moments, and it wasn't going away. Everywhere I went in the house, I couldn't shake off this uneasy feeling. It was like a pair of eyes were constantly following me, tracing my every move. The chilling sensation of an unseen presence was always there, lurking in the shadows. Strange things started happening around the house. I'd find objects like my car keys or my phone in places where I hadn't left them. Once, I found my favorite coffee mug in the bathroom. I mean, who drinks coffee in the bathroom, right? I tried to brush it off, blaming it on my forgetfulness or maybe the stress of work messing with my mind. The doors in the house would creak open at ungodly hours. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of a door slowly groaning open, only to find nothing but darkness on the other side. The wind, I'd tell myself. It's just the wind. And the feeling of being watched. I tried to rationalize that too. Maybe it was just my overactive imagination playing tricks on me. I'd been working long hours, not getting enough sleep, and everyone knows that sleep deprivation can make you see and feel things that aren't really there. But the thing is, the feeling persisted. It didn't matter if it was day or night, if I was alone or with friends. That unseen presence was always there, always watching. I tried to ignore it, to push it to the back of my mind, but the more I ignored it, the stronger it became. It was like this unseen presence was feeding on my fear, growing stronger with each passing day. However, things were about to get a lot creepier. The sounds in the night were becoming too frequent to ignore. They'd started as simple creaks and whispers, the kind you could shrug off as the house settling or the wind playing tricks. But they were growing louder, more distinct, and more unsettling. I'd lie awake in bed, the stillness of the night broken by the soft padding of footsteps outside my room, the faint whisper of voices from the living room, or the chilling scrape of what sounded like something being dragged across the wooden floor. Each noise would send a shiver down my spine, causing my heart to race and my mind to fill with dread. I tried to investigate these sounds, of course. I'd muster the courage to step out of my room, armed with nothing but a flashlight and a baseball bat. But every time, I'd find nothing. The house would be as quiet and empty as ever, with no signs of any intruder or disturbance. I thought about leaving, about packing my bags and getting out of there. But something inside me, a mix of stubbornness and morbid curiosity, wouldn't let me. I wanted to know what was causing these sounds, even if it scared me half to death. I tried recording the noises, hoping to catch some evidence of what was happening, but each time I played back the recordings, there was nothing but silence. I even invited a friend over one night, hoping a second pair of ears might hear what I was hearing, but again, nothing. I felt like I was losing my mind. The sounds were so real, so vivid, but there was never any proof, never any explanation. It was as if the house itself was playing a cruel joke on me, tormenting me with sounds only I could hear. But as the nights wore on and the sounds continued, my fear turned into frustration. I was determined to uncover the truth, to find out what was causing these nocturnal disturbances. I decided to stay, to face whatever was lurking in the shadows. What I didn't know was that the worst was yet to come. I came face to face with the horror I never believed in. It was the middle of the night. I woke up, heart pounding, not sure why. The house was as quiet as a tomb, but there was something off. You know that feeling when you wake up and you know something's wrong, but you can't put your finger on it? That's how it was. I lay there, still as stone, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. And then I saw it, a figure. It was standing at the foot of my bed, a shadow against the deeper shadows of the room. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me, but it was still there, a tall, slender silhouette, just standing there. I felt a chill creep up my spine. This wasn't right. This wasn't normal. I'm not a brave man, but I knew I had to confront this thing. I reached over to switch on the bedside lamp, my hand shaking. But before I could get there, the figure moved. It was just a blur, a flicker in the corner of my eye, and then it was gone. The room was empty, just as it should have been, but I knew what I'd seen. I sat up, my heart still racing, my mind spinning with questions. What was it? Where did it come from? Was it real or just a figment of my imagination? But I knew deep down inside, it was real. I could still feel the cold dread lingering in the air, the echo of its presence. It was terrifying, but there was something else too, a strange sense of intrigue. I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't help it. I had to find out what this was. I had to know what was happening in my own home. Even though I was shaking, I got out of bed, determined to face whatever this was. I wasn't going to let fear keep me paralyzed. I had to figure this out. I had to confront the unknown. I knew I had to find out what was going on. I decided to dig into the history of the house. I couldn't let the unknown consume me anymore. Whether it was bravery or desperation, I'm not sure, but I found myself at the local library poring over old newspapers and property records, trying to make sense of the haunting that was turning my life upside down. I found out that the house was built in the late 19th century. It had a long list of owners, but one name caught my attention, a family that had lived there in the early 20th century. The records were patchy, but I gathered that they had experienced a tragedy. A single line in a faded newspaper clipping sent a shiver down my spine. It mentioned a mysterious event that had shaken the community. The details were vague. The article was more about the shock in the community than the event itself, but it was clear that something terrible had happened in the house. I tried to trace the family's descendants, hoping for more information, but hit a dead end. The family had seemingly vanished after the horrific incident. The house had been sold multiple times after that, and none of the subsequent owners had stayed for long.